episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime on trending criminal cases and breaking news, which is what we have tonight. I said I wouldn't be back, and I am back, and that is because it appears law enforcement is closing in on Travis Decker. He is the former infantryman, soldier. He's a trained survivalist. And now, sadly, an accused child killer of his own three daughters, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Peyton, Evan, and Olivia, who were just 9, 8, and 5 years old. It is a gruesome story. He apparently is suffering from PTSD, has a borderline personality disorder that he was diagnosed with, and is now accused of asphyxiation of all three daughters by placing a plastic bag over their heads and zip tying their hands. So authorities now, this is into the second week of this manhunt, and they are using everything to find them. Let's bring in, as we're awaiting this news conference, a former Seattle hostage negotiator in Kings County, Jim Fuda,
and Chief Jerome Brown
Doug
with the
McGregor.
U.S. Marshal Service.
And we're going to watch this together now.
We'll be providing an update on the ongoing investigation involving Travis Decker. At the conclusion of both of their updates, they will be available for about 5 minutes for questions. And with that, I'll welcome Sheriff Morrison.
Thank you, Sergeant. Good afternoon, Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison. Again, appreciate all you being here, paying attention. I want to start off as we have in the past, just making sure that we're remembering why we're here. That's for Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Their memories continue to motivate us, continue to inspire our agency to seek justice and be their voice. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their family. We continue to keep in communication with them and make sure that we remind them we have not given up. We've seen the amount of resources that we deployed over the last 10 days, working with our federal, state, and international partners to ensure that justice is brought for their deaths. So again, I appreciate everyone being here. I want to give an update where we're at with our investigation, how our proceedings are going. At this time, the Chelan County Sheriff's Office is going to deviate our resources back to the investigation, working closely with the Chelan County Prosecutor's Office to ensure our case for murder and kidnapping are ready to go, ready to be presented, while our partners with the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol is going to continue to keep their units on the ground, conducting the search, overdoing the search, while we come alongside them. Our U.S. Forest Service deputy is out with them today, also helping them navigate some of our unique terrain over in the west end of our county. So we have not given up, but we understand that eventually resources start to tire out. This is like a fire that we've seen within our county numerous times. We usually see these teams rotating out after 2 weeks. We understand that we've pushed the men and women of our agency hard, along with the men and women of the Washington State Patrol, FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, Rivercom, our dispatch center also being stressed. So we recognize that we need to be reasonable, need to give them the opportunity to rest up and get ready for the second wave when we come in. Clearly, we understand that our investigation has evolved and it has matured. And with that comes a change in situation, which is going to come a change in tactics. You will see a change in our tactics as we proceed forward. You will not see the amount of resources that we have had out there, but you are seeing a different element of our approach as we continue to track down Travis, following leads and making it very clear that every single day Travis is out there, he's going to have to aim for perfection. He's not going to be able to make a mistake, because all we need is one mistake and one day to go in our favor, and he's going to be in our custody. So I hope he's watching. I hope he knows that we haven't given up, but you got to be perfect every single day, Travis. We only have to be perfect one day. So we appreciate the community coming alongside us. We cannot do it without the 80,000 plus citizens of Chelan County that have been a constant eye and vigilant force that we do not have at all times. We also appreciate our partners nationally that have come alongside us, assist us in following up leads. And not only nationally, but we've had partners as far away as Australia and Portugal that have done us the favor of being able to spread Travis's face and likeness throughout the globe to ensure that every single person knows near and far what Travis looks like. When you see him, say something to us. We want to find him. We want to bring him to justice. We want to set up the opportunity for him to stand in front of our courts and our judges and face justice and hear the voices of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, whose lives were senselessly taken by evil. That's all it was. We remain committed here at the Chelan County Sheriff's Office with our regional partners, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, East Wenatchee PD, Wenatchee PD, State Patrol, to continue to pursue justice and make sure their voices are heard. You're going to hear further from our U.S. Marshal partners to kind of elaborate further on how they're going to also assist us in the tracking process. We have not stopped our investigation, and again, we understand that the results from our crime lab processing from the Washington State Patrol, thank you Chief Batiste for your continued assistance on this, are starting to come back. We want to make sure those are properly processed, additional leads and interviews are conducted, and that again, our case is ready to go to court when Travis is brought to justice. So I appreciate your time. I will answer more questions, and I'm going to allow the U.S. Marshal Service to take some further questions from you, the media. But again, I appreciate all of you being here. This is the kind of group effort that's going to take to bring justice to this case. Please make sure you keep their names in your mind and that we bring justice back for those young ladies. Girls is what I've understood the family would like me to refer to them as. But they are deeply in our minds, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And Chief Brown with the U.S. Marshal Service, Eastern District, Washington. Appreciate everybody here being here today. The community support from our law enforcement partners, which the Sheriff has already enumerated, and you as a community has been greatly helpful to us. With that support, we're able to involve ourselves and focus on the fugitive investigation. Part of that is to include deploying our rapidly advancing Manhunt program. That program brings resources from all over to include funding to support your community, the Sheriff's Department, Border Patrol, and all the other resources so we can navigate the terrain and locate and apprehend the fugitive. We will not stop. We will keep going. He just has to make one mistake, like the Sheriff said. We will find him. He will be brought to justice so the community can heal. Thank you.
With that, we'll take about 5 minutes for questions for either two.
Has Decker left any physical evidence behind in areas that you guys have received tips about?
We have found
Indicating that it's him.
We have found items that are of interest to us that perceive that it could be Mr. Decker. We've also continued to follow up with some of his friends and family, and we believe that we're closing in on his trail.
Sheriff Morrison, what can you tell us about yesterday's possible sighting at Blewett Pass?
Again, this just emphasizes the importance. If you see something, say something. We're appreciative of those group of hikers that were up there, had more acknowledged us as our flight patterns were up there, and then just the behavior that we saw from the lone hiker did not match. That was typical with everyone else we were seeing up there. So again, that sparked our interest. We did put a ground unit on there to continue tracking the prints that we had. We continue to track that down in Eagles Creek and up in the Valley High area. So again, we appreciate everyone, even on the back trails. You need to remain vigilant, and again, we encourage you not to approach the subject. He is still considered dangerous, but please, we need as much information and help from the public as we can get. As we've seen in the past with other manhunts, it is going to take a group effort in the community in order to bring this to a conclusion.
Is there
yesterday to today? It seemed like you guys were pretty close yesterday, and everyone was kind of on edge. And I'm just wondering, what about those tactics changed today? It seemed like you guys improved.
No, our tactics have still continued. We still have a ground team on there. We have dogs out there that we're tracking leads. We're going through sightings. We're also doing trackings of what we have found with footprints. So nothing has changed from yesterday. We've just started to head in a different direction. So until that time, our ground units are still on the ground. We still have resources within the Chelan County Sheriff's Office pursuing that, and we'll continue to hunt.
Is there concern that he could be going a different direction towards the Teanaway Trail, towards Clay Ellum?
Absolutely, and I've already been in contact with Kittitas County Sheriff Clay Myers this morning. We know that he has resources on the ground as well. There is nowhere that he's going to be able to go that we don't have units waiting for him. King County Sheriff's Office has already been here assisting us. Snohomish County, been in touch with Okanagan County. We have Douglas County Sheriffs in close contact. They had the Grant County Sheriff today. He is surrounded. Washington State knows who he is. We're going to continue to be in there, and he's got a lot of ground to cover. Eventually, he's going to tire and he's going to make a mistake.
How confident are you that lone hiker you guys spotted is
We feel pretty confident that it could be him, but again, we're not going to ever go out and say 100% until we have him in our grip.
Sheriff Morrison, when the dogs find Decker, how does that process work out?
Again, Mr. Decker is going to be able to dictate how this ends. We've encouraged him time and time again to give up. do so peacefully. That's what we're aiming for. But again, Mr. Decker is going to be the one who's going to dictate how this ends. We do not just deploy dogs, just to deploy dogs. They're there to assist us in a tracking process and, of course, to protect the handlers. But he's going to be given the same professional courtesy as any other citizen within Washington State or the United States. We're going to follow de-escalation principles that are followed here in Washington State. We're going to communicate. We're going to do contact and cover, maintain our distance. Our intent is not to hurt or injure him. It is to bring him to justice and make sure that he's in good shape so he can face the trial.
Are there anything as far as motive goes?
Nope. And again, I've said it before, I don't think the motive would even matter. As far as we see it, 3 young girls have been killed. I don't think the motive is going to matter. We're continuing to reach out and talk to different residents throughout the Valley High and the Ingalls Creek area to see if they do have any cameras mounted in their house. Again, the most recent photos we had is what we've shared, and that was a couple days before he went off grid and, of course, was last seen up the icicle.
Have there been any found supply caches, reported burglaries, and why do you think Decker is now armed?
I don't think any information is put out that he's armed, but I mean, I certainly feel that he is dangerous. If any of you remember the search that we had about 1.5 years, 2 years ago in Kittitas County, we recognized that subject was raiding campgrounds. He had broken into the Liberty grocery store. So again, if you're out there and you notice that you have a vacation home out there or a campsite, we want you to keep track of your supplies, of your cabins. If you do have things that are missing, even if it's minor items. In that case, in the previous manhunt, we do know they were just taking a couple items out of coolers, but it was those campers that were attentive and realizing how many supplies they had. This could be a way that he could continue his path out there.
What is the biggest challenge right now for you guys?
Terrain. I mean, we have a very unique terrain when you get to the west end of our county. Again, I mentioned it before, 87% of our county is not accessible by road. If you go out there, it's steep terrain. It's heavily wooded. It's not the easiest to access. We have the Pacific Crest Trail, but another unique feature we do have in our favor is that we are a tourist destination. So we have a lot of people out there also recreating on those trails. So we're encouraging them, if you are going to come here, of course, be safe, but help us be those additional eyes and let him know that he has no safe spot to go. We did get a call of a potential subject that was in a residence up in the Valley High area. Based off the information we got from our sergeant that briefed the administration here, that did not come out to be a valid call. But again, we're going to continue to handle every single lead that we get as a valid complaint.
You said there were new tactics earlier in your statement. Can you share what those are?
New tactics as in searching and or in how we contact people?
Both.
Okay. So, I mean, anyone that had been following Washington state law over here over the last several years, of course, we have Washington State's de-escalate Washington, which was I-940. And of course, it's just how we contact. I mean, we're going to control our pace when we're out there. We're working on contact and cover officers. We've invested heavily, thanks to our county commissioners and other federal partners, with less lethal tools. Again, we're not looking to injure anybody. We just want to take this subject into custody and make sure he stands trial. Are you talking about which partners we have? Sorry, getting a little bit of background. Yeah.
Are you guys working with any Canadian agencies?
I did have contact today with some enforcement agents up in Canada. We continue to work with our prosecutor's office on that front. But again, we've appreciated all the assistance we've had internationally and nationally assisting us. I mean, we're a medium-sized agency, and we recognize without the support of our partners federally, state, and locally, we certainly would have a unique challenge that I don't think we'd be able to take on by ourselves. So we're thankful for that. Icicle Road was already opened back up. I know the U.S. Forest Service, who's also been one of our partners we've been communicating with, has put out in their press releases that the Enchantments is open again. Again, we'd encourage people to be cautious when they're out there. It is a very wide open terrain, and now you have the potential of a subject who is perceived to be dangerous out there as well that's unaccounted for. So come prepared and know that if there's lots of other places here in Washington State you could recreate. Of course, we want you to come here and visit Chelan County, but if you do so, please be careful. We appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Moments ago, we
with
were
that,
hearing
we'll
from Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison. He just gave us an update there on the
Joey,
search
let's
for
stay on this
Travis
for a minute.
Decker, who is charged with killing his 3 daughters. The sheriff essentially saying that they're still looking for him and will continue to do so. The sheriff said they're changing some tactics. He also said Decker needs to be, quote, perfect, and that they are waiting for him to make a mistake. The sheriff did say they think they're closing in on him. They have found some physical evidence that's of interest to them. They didn't say exactly what. Chelan County is working with multiple agencies right now in this search. They are asking the public to stay alert and report anything suspicious. And stay with King 5 for continuing coverage on the search for Travis.
All right. and now it's me and not her. I didn't get a chance to properly introduce Doug McGregor. He's got a show on our second channel, STS Talk. He is the geo profiler, an expert in tracking. So we got a lot of information here. This is the sheriff, Jim Fuda from Chelan County. He right away mentioned the girls' names, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, 9, 8, and 5. And you see them there, adorable little kids who are no longer with us. And the sheriff said, motive here, he doesn't even care. It doesn't matter what the motive was. Jim Fuda, my first question is, are you surprised that this guy apparently is still alive and moving around, that he has not taken his own life? Most people were betting on that, at least at the beginning, at the onset of this story.
Yeah, in fact, we went back and forth with that when we did this podcast the other day, deciding whether he has actually killed himself or he was moving on. But what I do find interesting is that they did a search warrant on his phone records, and found that he was Googling stuff in Canada. Well, if you know the terrain at all, and I'm from Washington State, the Seattle area, and I'm no backwoods guy, but he's traveling in the wrong direction from Canada. So with that said, is that maybe that was a ruse? Am I right on that, Douglas? He's not going the direction towards Canada, right?
At the moment, it doesn't appear. He doesn't appear to be. I mean, the one section they did have cordoned off there was up around what's that? The Lake Chelan National Recreational Area, which includes part of the Pacific Crest Trail, which heads into Canada. So they did have that cordoned off at one point in time, but maybe they've obviously redirected their investigation south to the Enchantments area.
Yeah, remember these counties are huge, wooded, not very populated, and so imagine they get some information. If they're changing their location, I really feel that they've got some really good intel that they're working with.
Hey, COE, with the cursor, can you move it around a little so people can see where? Because I have no idea where this guy. Oh, there. No, that's there it is. There's Chelan County, right? Chelan. So Doug McGregor, a lot to dissect here. The sheriff seems pretty amped up, like a high energy guy, and he says that they are not quitting. When we talked to Jim Fuda, he said that these guys would be relentless. How difficult, in your opinion, is it? I mean, look at this terrain here. This is obviously in colder months. I think the snow is melting or has melted. But, I mean, how difficult is it? Because he talked about fatigue and how he's got to basically, bring people in and out to keep them fresh. But how difficult is it, just forget this guy, just to be moving around in this sort of terrain?
It's incredibly difficult. And I saw one comment there in the comment section about law enforcement being useless, but I think they're doing a fantastic job. The press conference was great. He's confident and he's looking to bring him in peacefully. He's not a cowboy looking to go out there and shoot this guy, which is excellent. Like he said, he's a U.S. citizen. He's a person. They should end this peacefully, but the conducting this search, as Jim would probably agree with, is difficult because the real people that you would want doing this search, you can't actually use. You can't use the search and rescue. The volunteer organizations that are up there training every day, they're not equipped to go against somebody that's potentially armed and dangerous and violent, right? I mean, those people, they train on the weekends and they work at Home Depot during the week, and they're 50, 60 years old. So you're not going to send them up trying to find this guy. So they're probably being advised by search and rescue that know the area, and then they're sending up their armed patrols, or they're sending up helicopters or drones. But this is a massive area. It's difficult terrain. I mean, for all we know, he could have been dead for 5 days now, and you'll never find his body for another month. It's so tough to say. But the area, the terrain, it's exhausting. These searchers are going to get injuries, fatigue, heat exhaustion, frostbite, whatever it is, and to conduct this kind of search is very, very difficult.
Jim Fuda, to you, I mean, this sounds like they're incredibly confident. There was a sighting. The sheriff said, we can't confirm the sighting, but they seem relentless. Do you think they're more confident in that sighting that they're letting on that they believe it was actually him?
That would be my guess. I mean, they let out bits and pieces of information because too much can be harmful if everybody knows your next move. And if this guy has any type of communications at all, the sheriff actually alluded to the fact that if you're listening, so to speak, that maybe there is something that this guy has that they're not able to cover. Maybe he's got a throw phone or something like that they're not tracking. But then again, in some of these areas, is that you're not going to get any reception anyway. But I think that they're really confident that they're on the right track.
Yeah. By the way, someone mentioned saying, he looks like he could be Filipino. I believe he is Native American. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And obviously they're putting the picture up everywhere. Even the sheriff said as far away as Portugal. He knows that the photo's been distributed. Obviously, they believe he's in this county still. Doug McGregor, to you, he also mentioned, which I'll get back to Jim about coordinating this, but he basically, I think he said Custom and Border Patrol is sort of the lead agency now, at least in this terrain. He went on to say, we push our men and women very hard, and now we've got to get ready for the second wave. Our situation is evolving. But now we see a different element of our approach. What does that mean in layman's terms when you're reading through the tea leaves? Because to me, it sounds like he's saying we're exhausting our resources up in these mountains, essentially, and now we've got to rely on Customs and Border Protection. He even said at one point, we're only a medium-sized agency. So is Customs and Border Protection, I guess, in the lead here? Is that who you'd expect to be in the lead?
I think what they're doing is they're trying to find organizations, agencies that are equipped for this type of manhunt, and they're rotating them in, rotating them out, right? The Customs and Border, I mean, you might think of it, okay, he's going to the Canadian border. That's why they brought them in, but it might not be. It might just be that they're the best trained in this type of terrain as law enforcement agents. Right. And so they're rotating them in. They're the different, like you said, the different agencies around there, Chelan County, Kittitas County. I mean, they have officers that may be equipped and trained to do these types of searches in this type of area, but they're small agencies. They got to rotate those people out. They got to sleep. They got to eat. So they're probably just bringing in other agencies to keep the search going because they don't want to give Travis any downtime. They don't want to give him a week off where he can get away. And I want to back something up that Jim was saying. I'm working a case in this exact area right now. I'm not there. I'm at my home in Ottawa, Canada, but I'm working a case in this exact area. And other than along the highway, the number 2 and the 97, you have no cell reception. So even if he had a cell phone on him, you can't track him with your cell phone because off of those main roads, you cannot track a cell phone. So, they're operating blind in that sense, even if he did have a cell phone or any other kind of device on him.
Doug, I think I heard this correctly because the COE also was taking notes, but the sheriff said something like 80% of this county is not accessible by road. That's 80%. What do you do? I mean, then everything's got to be on foot, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. It's very backcountry, very rural, mountainous terrain, and it's on foot. You may have some ORV, some off-road vehicle trails in there, maybe horseback, but dirt bikes. Some search and rescue units have dirt bike squads. But yes, you're not getting vehicles in there, and even the roads where you can get vehicles in, I mean, you need a Jeep, a truck. You can't take a small car in there. So it is very rigorous terrain.
Yeah. And Doug, just one more question. I don't know if you can answer this, but the case you're working on, is that like looking for a person that is believed to be alive, or are you looking for someone who has passed on?
It's not a manhunt.
Okay.
We'll put it that way. It's not a manhunt for somebody who's alive. Yeah.
Okay. The story breaks my heart. Prayers for Whitney, the mom, and those 3 beautiful girls. R.I.P. little angels. The one thing that keeps sort of standing out to me about this particular case is that bloody handprint. Jim Food, I don't know if you've had any more time to sort of digest that. And apparently someone in the chat was saying this, and I did not read this, but there's supposedly some kind of foreign male DNA, but also this bloody handprint. But, you know, he essentially suffocated these girls to death. Any thoughts about where this blood is coming from, Jim? I guess it could be coming from a variety of places.
I thought about this and thought if it came from, I don't think it was a struggle with at the scene. Remember, 2 days prior, he was in some kind of rear end accident, and that might have come from there, that he didn't wash the truck off. You know, who knows? But there's another likelihood of where that might have come from.
Vesper saying male blood and animal blood. And remind me, was the dog here, Vesper? You'll know this. Was the dog found deceased also, or did the dog take off? Because he was with a dog, but I don't know if Doug or Jim, do you know the answer to that?
They found the dog. They took it to the Humane Society.
Okay.
I saw a report on that. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully that's not that dog's blood. By the way, shout out to King 5. That was who brought us the press conference. They need a better backdrop for their set, but that's for another time. Travis, he says the sheriff is going to have to aim for perfection. This sheriff, by the way, I think the women appreciated this sheriff quite a bit, especially your latex spouse. But he said Travis is going to have to aim for perfection. You have to be perfect every day. We only need to be perfect one day. Doug McGregor, talk to us about that. I mean, this guy can't mess up. He can't be sighted, seen. Drones are overhead. How does he move around?
Yeah, I mean, perfection's one way to put it. Get lucky every day, whatever you want to call it. But he does. He's got to somehow avoid detection with anybody, right? Because everybody knows him in the area. The public's probably more or less aware of this case in that area. He can't make contact with anybody. I doubt with this type of crime, he's got few people that he can fall back on to support him. And, you know, he left his vehicle at ground zero where the girls were found. Right there says something, because he had a few hours if he wanted to get ahead of everybody and drive out of the area, and he chose not to. He left his vehicle. He left on foot, and we haven't heard any reports of him stealing or hijacking a car. So he left on foot. He stayed in the area. And yes, he does have to, if he's going to slip up at some point, as the sheriff mentioned, he's going to need resources. He's going to need shelter, and he's just going to get exhausted. Most of these cases, they get exhausted if he's still alive. And then he's going to, he's going to seek out these things.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like, it's weird here. Obviously he's looking jacked and shirtless, but he looks like a totally different person to me. And again, these hikers said that whoever they saw on this trail didn't seem prepared to be there. Doug McGregor, just coming back to you. Someone was just asking right here, Janet, how does he survive food wise? I mean, is this guy literally eating like berries, eating fruit, trying to kill animals? What's going on with him? I mean, it's been 10 days, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some training. He looks relatively fit. He can go 30 days without eating if he needs to, right? Well, and he could, if he needed to. He'll be losing weight every day, but as long as he has some source of fresh water, but yeah, food, water, shelter. But he has some fresh water. He has some shelter. But we're only on day 8. I mean, he could have gone all 8 days without eating if he had to. But I'm sure he'll find something, or maybe he took something with him out of his vehicle, or like the sheriff said, he could steal small things and nobody would ever notice, and that was a great point, right? He just walks into someone's cottage, camp, trailer, whatever, and just steals a little bit of food. Well, that holds him over for another 6 days. So, but he will look for those resources, but he can go for a while without eating, at least, not necessarily drinking.
30 days. That's a long time without food. That is for damn sure. Jim Fuda, you were in Seattle, in Kings County, obviously much more sort of urban, I guess, than this area. But how, again, do these different jurisdictions, including Customs and Border Protection, how do they all coordinate? You've got the U.S. Marshals, you've got the local deputies and the sheriff. Who takes command? Who's running the show, and how do they work together?
Well, the area of the crime is the one who usually takes command, and there's a command post set up where all information and all dispatching all comes out of the one place. Resources coming in, resources going out, who comes back and reports. So that's all done coordinated wise. And one other point I wanted to mention is that like what Douglas said is about civilians in these search and rescue outfits are not on the front lines, but I guarantee you they're in the command post helping direct where they're going to go, where they're going to be searching next, and what the terrain is like.
Yeah, and Jim, for him, Joey says 100% he's not going to Canada. Do you agree with that? I mean, how quickly would he be stopped at the border, and how porous is the border? Is there a part of the border where you can literally just walk across and get into a town?
That for me, I think that it's open enough going north that he could slip if he's off trails and that kind of thing. He could slip through.
You can walk right across the border in that area. I've been hunting in British Columbia, and I've walked right up to the border, and it's a 5-foot wired fence. I mean, the Pacific Crest Trail, you used to be able to get a permit that would allow you to walk right into Canada and back into the US. They don't do that anymore, but there's so many areas around there that are porous. If you wanted to, you could walk in.
Yeah. And so, Doug, let me ask you this. If the sheriff that seems to be quite popular among STS Nation, Sheriff Morrison from Chelan County, if he called you and said, Doug McGregor, we need your help, how do you start looking for this guy from where you're at? What are you doing?
From what I'm doing, I mean, like Jim said, they're being advised by the best searchers, search and rescue in that area that know that area the best. I would offer what I could. I'd review their search. I'd look at Travis Decker as a person as well, and do a geographic profile of him. Who does he trust? Where does he know? Where are his anchor points? Where is his awareness space? Where is he used to traveling? And figure that out, and possibly identify areas that he may try to get to, so you could get there first and kind of get ahead of them. But in terms of the actual search in this area, I would definitely defer to the search and rescue advisors.
And yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, they're the grid searches that they're doing. That's why they're opening up other campgrounds. They've searched it best they can, and then they're moving on as the evidence and information is coming to them. So picture a building. Let's say that there's a guy holed up inside, and a SWAT team's going in and going from room to room. Clear a building, clear a room, move on to the next one, and that's all they're doing. Only this is gigantic territory. So.
Yeah. Jim, are you curious? Because the sheriff said, I don't even care what the motive is. He said it's not important, but your job as a hostage negotiator, you're part like law enforcement and you're part psychologist. Would you be curious to know why he, and there it is. Police said, I don't think the motive matters. These young girls have been killed, but would you want to know the motive in order to be able to talk him down?
Well, if it came to, we're going to be negotiating with the guy, I would want to know what he was thinking, and that's something that if we had him contained and he was willing to start a conversation, that's something that we would talk about. And I would also try to find something else to blame other than him, so to speak. I mentioned in the last podcast about the guy on the bridge that murdered his ex-wife and current boyfriend in front of their 7-year-old, and he had been a vet, and I says, well, you have PTSD and you need help for that. So I blame something else rather than his actions to try to build some kind of bond with him to get him out, with the less lethal way to get him out of the situation, so we could take him into custody, so no one could get hurt. This guy was 30 yards from me with several weapons in his truck.
Yeah. The other thing is, Jim, I'm taking notes and listening and doing all that, but you keep hearing the phrase, which is, the sexy TV police phrase of armed and dangerous. He asphyxiated his daughters. Do you think they know for a fact that he's carrying a firearm, and that's why they're saying he's armed and dangerous, or they fear that he could have stolen a weapon from one of these cottages or bunk or cabins? Why are they saying he's armed and dangerous?
Well, I think that's all a possibility, and I think some of the background, if people they were talking to, does he have any firearms? I think, and then if he's going to different cabins and things like that, it'd be bad if people left unlocked weapons in their cabins and stuff. But it could be possible he could have got one that way too. But let's look at the mindset of the guy and his skill set. He's dangerous and armed. Could that be a knife? Could that be a firearm? It's hard to say.
Yeah. Doug, what about, oh, there we go. For Doug, someone was asking about drone usage and how effective that would be in a case like this. And then also tracking footprints in this dense and varied terrain. So those are two things that they said. And you're reading my mind, because I was going to ask you about the resources. So Doug, what are the resources, and what about a drone and tracking?
Well, let's start with drones. I mean, it all depends on what agencies they've brought in and what resources they have. I'm not sure what the Marshal Service drone capability is. I'm sure they have it. Whether they have it in this area, I don't know. Customs and Border, absolutely. They have drone services that fly along the border. There's also quite a few. I know of 2 very good drone companies in Washington State that are outsourced for search and rescue operations, and they have infrared drones, they have LiDAR drones, they have whatever you need. So if they've outsourced to these companies, they would have those resources. So they continue the drones at night. And in this type of terrain, you might want to outsource to somebody like that because they have a mesh drone capability, which means you don't need line of sight, right? If I go fly a drone, I need to be able to see that drone, so the distance is limited. But if you have a mesh drone capability, one drone sees the next drone, and you can cover a much wider area. So it's really tough to say what capabilities they have there right now. In terms of tracking, Jim may be better to answer that. If they have any professional trackers in and around that area, I know they do. Whether they've called on those trackers and whether they are suitable to be in a situation with someone that's armed and dangerous is tough to say.
Look at this. We're talking about 3 girls killed and the women in STS. That sheriff was so handsome and perfect looking, like a Ken doll. I'll allow you. You got to let things vent, let things out. I get it. Doug McGregor, what you said was interesting to me, which is you want to know this guy's kind of like his daily habits. And is that because humans are creatures of habit? So you want to know, like, if there's a favorite campground, if there's something, something that he's familiar with in this area, he's more likely to go to something that's familiar than completely foreign. Is that the thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, fugitives, manhunts, I mean, they're all a little bit different depending on how they started, whether they escaped from a prison, whether they committed a murder and now they're on the run, whatever it is. But the initial reaction is to get away, generally speaking. But then after that, it's to go to something, to get something, which is resources, right? To survive, and then to go to something. It's not just an endless run. So eventually he's going to try and go to something, whatever that may be. It's probably an area of familiarity. It's probably a person that he can confide in, that he knows, okay, this person may not let me hide out in their basement, but they'll give me a few $100, right? Mm-hmm. Who's that person going to be? So when I'm looking at cases like this, it's creating that profile of that person's life and figuring out who those people are and where those places are that they may go.
A shout out to my friend Black Widow, Vesper Martini, Court Lurkers in Newnham. Welcome to the new people as well. I'm just Nicole, the marketing director. I love that name. If he had a 3-day start, Jim, how much harder? He definitely had a head start, Jim. Does that matter at the end? Because they've got him, according to the sheriff, surrounded. They've got resources in every county. How big a deal is that?
Well, it just takes a little bit longer to catch him. Like you can't sniff the truck and then send a bloodhound following with a 3-day head start. Temperature, weather, wind, rain, fires, all that plays into fact for a scent. And in a 3-day scent, a dog is going to be really tired out, and it's not going to last. So they have to pretty much find a pretty good starting point, but to be able to use those.
Yeah, and Court Lurker says, I'd stay in the area if I was him. They're expecting him to run everywhere but nowhere. That's interesting. Kimberly here, back to Jim on this one. If he was not prepared, it raises a question if this was premeditated or if he just flipped. Conversely, Jim, what if he is prepared? What if he came with MREs? What if he does have a weapon? That would show that there was some sort of, forethought. Yeah. So how would you deal with that from your position as a guy who would have to go and negotiate this if hypothetically it was sort of planned out?
Yeah, and that's my thought. I don't think he just snapped at that particular moment and did that. It looked like this was a planned thing. I would think, and I'm guessing that in the beginning he probably had, I could get to this point. At this point, I might have something there, and these are questions that will be asked the people that are closest to him, like you mentioned before. Where does he like to go hike? What's his favorite fishing hole, or has he been checking out anything new? These kinds of questions that would give some kind of information that would be worth investigating.
Yeah, they did eventually get Eric Rudolph, but I think Rudolph was like 6 years or something. It was a long time. Correct me, I could be way off. But Woman of Steel here, that's what I call Carm sometimes, pre-planned 100%, which is depressing to think that. And this question, Doug, I was actually coming to you with this. Can you tell me why the dogs can't hold on to Decker's scent and track him? So why can't they pick up, that scent at the campground and say, go find this guy, and have them run merrily through the woods?
Dogs are, and I'm not a canine handler. I've worked with canine teams. I've guided them on searches, but they're not this magic tool that everybody thinks they are, right? First of all, it depends what kind of dogs you have available to you, right? Every dog does something specific. So it depends on what kind of dog you have with you. Next, it depends on the environmental conditions. Environmental conditions weigh heavily on whether a dog is able to track or not. The terrain on whether a dog is able to track or not. And dogs get exhausted just like we do, even more so, because a dog is a type of animal that sleeps most of the day. We're awake most of the day. We sleep for, let's just say, 8 hours a day. A dog is awake 8 hours a day, right? Mm-hmm. So dogs get exhausted. You got to rotate them out. So how long can one dog track a guy? And then when you are tracking, you want multiple dogs. So there's just so many variables at play that dogs are useful, and they may be useful in the search at some points, but not for the entirety of it. And there was also one more thing I wanted to point out, in that unlike a lot of fugitive manhunts we see, and I'll just use the Danilo Cavalcante one. In this area, law enforcement won't be able to set up the perimeters like they were able to in the Cavalcante search, right? In the Cavalcante search, they could block off an entire road and have an officer, whatever, every 50 yards down the road, and create a perimeter and hopefully prevent Cavalcante from breaking that perimeter and keeping them inside of a zone. But in this area, there's no setting up perimeters.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I was just going to say, let's say a guy robs a 7-Eleven store in a community, and then you'll get cops if you don't have necessarily a set perimeter. But what they'll try and do is they'll turn on their lights and hit their siren every now and then, and they'll drive the neighborhood to drive the suspect to ground so the dog can come get you. But Doug's right. In this environment, you can't do that.
Yeah, I'm with the Off-White Lotus, by the way, one of the great. I love that show. I have the same sleeping patterns of a dog. So do I, White Lotus. So you and I are the same. It's hard for me to stay awake more than 3 hours. And then I look at my pug, Fred and Ethel, and it makes me want to sleep an additional 5 hours. By the way, Jim Fuda's wife, Pascal Fortman, she trains dogs and is a expert at dog behavior. So we've got that, which is kind of cool. We'll get her back on, Jim. So Chief Brown with the U.S. Marshals, he got up. He didn't want to talk. He was one of the shy guys, which is funny. So he said like 3 things. And he did say, Doug, that they're deploying the rapidly advancing Manhunt program. Do you know anything about that? That's interesting. I mean, it sounds serious. This was not an acronym. Usually things are acronyms, but this was the rapidly advancing Manhunt program. Do we know what that is?
I have no. It was the first time I've heard of it. I'm as interested as you are.
Yeah, I would like to find out if anyone knows anything. Please let us know. He echoed the sheriff from Chelan County, saying that all he has to do is make one mistake. Doug, if this guy offed himself, which there's a very good chance, there is a very good chance he might never be found in this terrain, right? Or we could go years and years and years before he's found potentially.
Definitely. He could just be, his body could be anywhere. It could be water. It could be land, at the bottom of a cliff, right? It could be anywhere. And eventually some hiker, mushroom picker, dog walker, hunter will come across his remains. If that's what's happened. But yes, he could go many years without being found, but the whole time he's there just to seize. It's possible.
Jim Fuda, you know the psychology of people. Is this guy alive right now? Think he's running?
I think he is. I think he's still alive. I think that, I mentioned that term trigger point, that moment in time when a person is both mentally and physically capable of killing himself. Meaning in my mind, I want to die, but to take the physical with the mental and blow your brains out is a short period of time. That's why we're able to talk these people out of situations that are going to kill themselves. Is that you get them past that point, you get them talking about the future, that kind of thing. And this guy had all the wherewithal in the world not to do it all the time in the world, and I think he's past it. I talked people out that said that they drove away from their house because they didn't want to kill themselves in the house where their family was, and once they got to the point where they were going to go do it, they couldn't. So I think that's why a lot of them they get that urge and they do it right then and there, and they're in their house and for their loved ones to find them.
Yeah. I want to get back to that. Nicole Longo, longtime friend of the show. Bye-bye, guys. Make sure Joel wishes me a happy belated birthday, Nicole. You are catching up to me and wishing you a great, great day that already passed, but have another great day on me. So happy birthday to you. Jim Fuda, your job is fascinating because I'm the son of a psychiatrist and a social worker. That period of time, the trigger point that you're talking about, are there studies on it? I once heard that if you talk to someone who had suicidal ideation, was really thinking about doing it, and then you talk to them just 24 to 48 hours later, they're in a totally different state of mind. Like they would not have done it. So do you know what the window of time is for that?
I think it's different for everybody. I don't think you could pinpoint. There's signs when you talk with them about, like I said, talking about the future. God, I had guys that were going to use me as a job reference, things like that. So it just depends on who you're talking to and how depressed they are or how hell bent they are on what they're going to do. So it just depends.
Yeah. Jim, they also the sheriff mentioned following Washington State de-escalation protocol. I had no idea such a thing existed. I know you've been retired for some time, but do you know what that means in English?
Yeah, I think that fits into the pyramid of force. Command, presence, your baton, your gun, your this, your that, and it fits in if you can talk to the person first and get them to de-escalate. That's another step in that protocol.
So I just want to get everyone up to speed on the latest location and search efforts because they kind of glossed over this quickly. Eric Rudolph captured in 2003, and he committed that horrific bombing in 96. So it was, I guess, 7 years. I said 6 years, so I was close if my math is correct on that. But Doug, since you've been kind of looking at this area for another case, they say that the current focus area, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, is Blewett Pass, which is Blewett, Blewett Pass, Highway 97 in Kittitas County. And the last possible sighting is a tip from hikers reported to have seen a lone, ill-prepared person near Colchuk Lake in the Enchantments, a remote alpine area. I mean, it's one of the more beautiful places probably in the whole world to hide out. But what do you know about this particular area, if you do? Blewett Pass, Highway 97 in Kittitas County, if I'm pronouncing that right.
I know quite a bit about the whole area, not specifically on the ground. Maybe Jim would better comment there, but the case I'm working is all around there. The Leavenworth area along those two highways. The area is very difficult. Now, when it comes to eyewitnesses, right? If you have a manhunt like this, I mean, people are going to see this individual, right? Not necessarily actually see this individual, but think they see this individual or report people who look suspicious. And as law enforcement, you have to investigate every single one of them. So whether this is actually him or not, I don't know. I can't really comment. It's hard to say. But if he's in that area, he's going to come down to the Leavenworth area, out of the Enchantments, one of those areas, to find resources at some point. But it is very difficult, and following up on all those leads, all those sightings, real or not, are difficult.
By the way, if you appreciate this content, we've got the best guests in true crime. I saw someone asking, yes, we are a true crime show. We do a nightly show with a roundtable of panelists. Tonight, we're just doing breaking news, but typically cover big criminal cases. If you appreciate it, hit the like button, subscribe. We've got a Patreon page. It takes a village to put this all together. It was Victor Morales asking, yes, it's true crime, but we come from a news background at this channel. And so we cover news as well, like we're doing right now. Sam M here. Jim Fuda, I think he's too big of a coward to unalive himself, and only those sweet, beautiful girls, only to hurt the mom. He had texted the mom a while back before this, and she and the girls are all he had left. I mean, Jim, I know you don't know for sure, but can you tell us what you think happened here in this? What was the motive? Is this it, to hurt the mother?
Well, it sounds pretty plausible. And, usually when somebody goes and does something like this, and then even with you put the suicide factor into that, there's a precipitating event, usually, that if they're planning something like this, okay, now I'm acting. And, he had a car accident, and maybe that was the precipitating event, because now his car's wrecked or whatever the reason might be. So, but I don't know what happened between the two of them, the ex-wife and him, if something happened, or there were words, or she said something, you're not going to see the kids anymore, or something. But that's totally probable.
Yeah. Rosie's asking about the Ring camera. I don't think there was much to the Ring camera. It was obviously at a front door. I think maybe the ex-wife, but Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the reason they released that Ring video, which we showed last time right there, is just so people would get an idea of, what he looks like, his tattoos, how he's built. He's got his hair pulled back in a ponytail. Is that why they released this, or is there more to it?
No, I think that's the case. In fact, every picture they released, if you put them together in a montage, I'd have a heck of a time figuring out who this guy is. He looks different in every one.
And Jim, sorry, I'm going a little Jim heavy right now, but I'm interested in the psychology. Black Widow, our friend in the Republic of Ireland. And by the way, She Fly 9 says, love the show. The guest, the mods host, thank you so much. Please subscribe. But Black Widow says this is a case, kind of a classic case of coercive control, where now he's controlling by literally murdering the children. Do you see it that way, Jim? I mean, or is that taking it a step too far?
I think it could be any or all of the above, and I think if they catch him alive, they'll be they'll be discussing that with him for sure. He'll see some shrinks, and they'll even make the case that he wasn't in his right mind, the insanity plea kind of thing. So they'll do that just to make sure that he's sane enough to stand trial.
Yeah. And Doug, I sort of asked you this before, but a guy that is trained as a survivalist, which, by the way, people emailed me and said this guy's not a ranger. Some people said he was a ranger in the Army, which is a pretty big deal. Others say he is not. But how long, you said you don't need food for 30 days, but realistically, how long can you live off grid? How long can you do this for?
I mean, if you're trained, but more importantly, if you have the mental stamina, you can live off grid for a while, for a long time. For example, there's people in Canada. I worked Elections Canada back in 2015, I think, for our federal election. And there's people in Canada that have no fixed address. Their address is the closest creek, the closest little stream of water, and they live off grid. That's what they do. That's their life, right? And they live off grid all the time. So my point is, I mean, if you're trained and you have the mental stamina, you can live off grid for as long as you want. But I mean, this guy's got the whole country looking for him, which makes that a lot more difficult. And I also want to point out that just because he was in the military doesn't mean he's going to be any better at living off grid and following through with that, and not giving in to exhaustion and despair any better than the rest of us. So it's just tough to say. It all depends on the person and their will, but I mean, you could live off grid for quite some time.
Look at this. I knew I'd be corrected. Barbara, by the way, the Unabomber lived off grid he was in a little cabin there. I actually liked his house, so I wouldn't mind living there. Someone here, Jim, look at this. It is King County, not Kings County. They say kings come from queens. That's what Run DMC said about themselves, but it is King County. My apologies.
There's a Kings County on the East Coast.
Oh, there is? Oh, there you go. Doug, to you, I just want to run through this real quick, and then we'll get some final thoughts. And by the way, I'm headed over to Courtroom Confidential after this. Josh Ritter, kind enough to invite me on. We're going to be discussing some of the big true crime stories at Courtroom Confidential right after this. So I started this morning doing Court TV at 8 a.m., and then I get to finish up with Josh Ritter at 8 o'clock. So what is the proof Decker also isn't a great question. Great question. So Jim, let's address this, because this came up on our last show when we had you there, and it goes back to this bloody print and foreign male DNA. What about the chance that it's a 1 in a million chance that some guy kills the daughters and abducts this guy? I mean, could you, it sounds crazy, but I guess it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think he's a victim. There must be something at the scene that they're not of the girls, where the girls were found, that there's something there that definitely says it was Dad. Oh, he could have left a note. We don't know about that the detectives are keeping quiet.
Allison Adams letting us know he trained with the Rangers but didn't finish the requirements, so he was released. His father was a Green Beret, so is the father, still alive? Has he commented? I'd be curious to hear from him.
The father is alive.
Is alive, yeah. Jim, again, you're part psychologist. What do you say to this mother? I wouldn't be surprised. God forbid, but I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to unalive herself from this tragedy. What would you say to her if you had to console her?
Well, what can you say? I think that's why all police agencies have chaplains, that stay glued to the hip with them for as long as they need.
That's just crazy. So Doug, the assets that are officially being used here, number one, you've got tactical teams with the U.S. Border Patrol, Kittitas County deputies, Chelan County. Then you've got the helicopters, the drones, the canine teams, and UTVs, which are off-road utility vehicles. Tell us a little bit about, I've heard of ATVs. What's the difference between an ATV and a UTV?
I think a UTV is like a side-by-side. So it's it's kind of halfway between a car and an ATV. If anybody doesn't know what a side-by-side is, they're very powerful, fast. They're off-road. They're big. They can get up to like $100,000. But yeah, I think that's what they're referring to.
Yeah, and the other thing here, and then we'll get your final thoughts, Doug, is they're saying that the weather conditions can range here from near freezing at elevation to 90 in the valleys. So it is a huge disparity in terms of weather, and who knows how he came prepared. He'd have to layer up for that. That's problematic, isn't it?
I mean, definitely he needs the gear for the different conditions, but I mean, so do the searchers, right? Like, I mean, you can't just go out there searching in the valley and then just start walking up the mountain into the snow. You're not going to have the gear, so you got to prepare for one or the other. But same with him. But I guess we don't really know what he left his vehicle with, whether he had a bag full of resources or whether he just had the shirt on his back. I haven't heard anything about that.
Epic Rain City Gaming. You can say this about me, but you can't say this about Doug. He has extensive training in wilderness terrain and mountain experience, military background with elusive skills. So yes, he is very different from a person like you or the guy in the bottom. Doug is very different than me. I would last in the wilderness for about 45 minutes before I started whining about mosquitoes, and then I would run. And you just heard Doug McGregor is a hunter. He's an outdoorsman. I am not an outdoorsman. And if you don't know Doug McGregor, now you do. He is the Geo Profiler. He's got a show on our second channel at STS Talk. He's putting out the most content on that channel, so we appreciate it very much. Rose M says it best. This is a horrible tragedy. Doug McGregor, how do you see this all ending?
I mean, I see this ending in... It's tough to say. I mean, a lot of these end either they're found deceased or as soon as law enforcement zero in, then it ends up that way as well. They end up deceased. I mean, it's possible they could take him alive, but I don't know. I guess my gut feeling says he's either going to be found deceased or that's going to happen kind of close to the time that law enforcement zeroes in. But I hope it doesn't, as the sheriff said. I hope he is taken alive. He's a person, and I hope that, justice is served after that. And I will comment on that last comment. Like, I'm not an Army. I've never been in the military. I'm not an Army Ranger. What I'm more getting at is, what is this guy's mental state and mental toughness at this time, whether he can live off grid or not. It's not that he hasn't been trained. It's that based on what he is going through his mind right now, some of the things that Jim mentioned, is he capable of that mental stamina to live off grid for an extended period of time?
I love people, especially Join Jen. These hosts but first of all, there's only one host. These hosts have zero knowledge of this area. What is there a reason people feel the need to make these comments? And now everyone's going to say, don't bring up the haters. But first of all, Jim Fuda lives in Washington State. And secondly, Doug McGregor is literally working a case in this area. So there, how about that? Doug, one final question for you. Trail cams, that came up with Rachel Morin, that case that you helped the family out on, where she was killed on a hiking trail in Maryland. Are there a lot of these hiking trail cams? Can they access them remotely? How do they all work?
I don't know what the trail cam infrastructure is in that area at this point in time, but it wouldn't surprise me if these agencies are setting up cameras, are setting up wildlife cameras, which are essentially wildlife go by, they trigger them, they're motion censored. They'd be putting them in key choke points on trails to pick up any movement, 24/7 of people passing through there. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are setting up these types of cameras.
Judy Girl says, I'm praying they bring him in alive. Whitney has already suffered so much. That's the ex-wife. Even if they're divorced, he was still a part of her life. She'd suffered other loss without answers. Central Washington is here. Welcome to Central Washington. And I agree with you. If anyone happens to be watching this and sees this person, 1-800-336-0102, 1-800-336-0102. That is the number to the U.S. Marshals. We're going to stay on this and keep you posted. Jim Fuda, a 33-year veteran of the King County Sheriff's Office in Seattle, and he was a hostage negotiator. Jim, let's say they've got this guy surrounded. What are they literally surrounded? And he's got a weapon. What happens next?
Well, it depends on his actions at this point. You know, there's the other side of it. His actions are responsible for his outcome as well. But I think I see one of four scenarios with him. One, he's already dead. Two, he's going to end up maybe killing himself as the police have him surrounded. Three, he's going to force a suicide by cop. Or four, he's going to surrender. And that gets back to the mindset. Totally exhausted, and you know, he's been out there for will be 2 weeks Friday, so it's been quite a while he's out there. One other thing I want to mention is that if somebody's afraid to be known, and you want to call that number, you can also call Crime Stoppers, and we've got many tips on that we've been forwarding over to the command post.
Excellent. Is that just 1-800? Is that just a Crime Stoppers?
It's 1-800-222-TIPS, or we have what we call the P3 Tips app that you can download for free, and that comes right to us, and we get that right to the command post.
All right. You got it there from a former hostage negotiator. Very intrigued. If I did a show with Jim on the video tab, not the live tab, about his career as a hostage negotiator and a situation that went south that Jim was involved with, but a very delicate situation. And then don't forget to check out Doug on our second channel at STS Talk. We'll be back tomorrow with a Diddy update. We're aiming to do a Brian Koberger show tomorrow. I'm going to be on way before 8:30, COE. I'm going to be on as soon as I get off of here, because that's the deal I made with Josh Ritter. So you guys can join me on Courtroom Confidential, and we'll be back tomorrow. If you haven't been paying attention to Diddy, you might not want to. It's pretty crazy. All right, everybody. Love you, America. And let's think of these three girls. We have a picture of them, COE, to end the show with. Yeah, here we go. Peyton, Olivia. There we go. Let me just get the correct, make sure I have it correct here. But Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Peyton 9, Evelyn 8, and Olivia 5. And there's the beautiful mother, Whitney, who I just cannot imagine what she is going through. Our condolences go out to you, and God bless. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks to the guests. Love you, America. Love you, Ottawa, Canada, Seattle, Washington, and the great state of Washington.